Okay, so now you've activated the app, we need to teach you how to use it. The app is really straightforward once you get going, but obviously initially it can be seem quite confusing. We're going to go through it step by step. As you can see, there are several different settings and functions here available. On the top here, you obviously have your toolbar, which we'll get into in another video, show you exactly what these things do. But the only thing you might want to look at from here is the View Pane. You may have a different view initially to what I've got here. That's because normally, as a predetermined preset, it comes as standard view, which will look a bit like this. Now you can change the size and shape of this a little bit to accommodate other apps you've got open on your PC. But if I go back to view, I prefer the attendant view. It gives me more information, shows me all the call data all the time, and especially if you're a contact center agent, this is probably going to be your preference. So as you can see now, I have various different windows. At the top here is my information. So you've got if you click on your face here, now I'd advise that everybody puts a profile picture on this. It makes the whole process easier. The experience is much nicer for both yourself and your colleagues to be able to see who's available and who's live, especially if you don't know, large organization don't know all of your colleagues. So what we'll do here, you click on your face and it gives you all the information about you here. So if a customer says, what's your phone number? It's just there at the top. As you go down, obviously it's got your email address and your full profile details here. Next along is the ability for you to change your caller ID. That is the number you present to a customer. So when you dial out from the app, it will dial out and it'll show the main business number as standard. But you have the ability to change this depending on which department you're working in at any one time. So if you click this, as you can see, I can change it to anonymous here. I have the option to do that. Or I can change it to switchboard on our particular system. So I've now changed what the end user, the customer, will see when I call them. Next along here is availability. So this is where you change your available status. This is really handy if you're working from home because this app allows you to work either within the office or at home and have exactly the same functionality. All you need is a broadband connection and a laptop or your PC. Now, this will allow you to tell all your colleagues what status you're in, whether you are working from home or you're working in the office. And although I haven't got those features on here at the moment, two of yours will be, one will be in the office and one will be working from home. You'll be able to click whichever one it is. And on the wall boards that you have in the office, in the contact center, it will show your status. Of course, busy is really handy if you're doing some training and just need calls to be routed elsewhere. And obviously lunch is self-explanatory, but you will have various options in here. And although in the future, these will be updated via your 365 calendar, your Microsoft calendar, at the moment, these will be set by you on a daily basis. The next bit here is a customizable tab, and this allows you to tell your colleagues what you're doing at that particular time. So mine says I'm available, and I can put in demo here. And so when any one of my colleagues try and contact me now, it will show that I'm in a demo currently. As I go down here, this bar allows me to either search for contacts within my organization or anybody in the phone directory for that matter. So I can say, let me have a search for Gary. It brings up all the Garys, everything Gary is associated to. And as you can see, this is Gary within our organization, but it could be other Garys as well, whoever's in your phone book. Or it allows me to dial numbers from here as well. So I could dial a mobile number, for example, hit enter, and that will make the call for me. So that's your dial bar as well. The middle section here is your favorites column. And this shows you all the favorites within your organization, your particular favorites. What it's most likely to show you is the people within your group, your department. And this will show you live presence of all these people. So as you can see here, Andy is part of my sales group. I can see that he is green, which means he is contactable. And I can call him. And you can see that Abby isn't. She's out of the office. If I look at Andy again here and drop down, I can see all Andy's information. I can then call him. I can send him a text message directly from the app, which will then get sent to his mobile. When he responds to that, it will then SMS back my phone, personal mobile. I'm getting words out there. So it'll actually send it back to my phone, not the app, It's important to remember. But if I want to make a call to somebody, I come down to the person I need to phone and click the call icon. And as you see on the right-hand side here, this is where all the call control is done. So this is where I make calls, take calls, transfer calls, add calls to conference, that kind of thing. I'll go over this section in detail in a moment. But while I'm still on dealing with the favorites bar here, I can come up to the top here because I need to add someone to my favorites. So I can add Gary. I know he's already in there, but this is basically how you do it. I find Gary, I use him as I drop down to show the full menu for Gary, and then I hit star here. And star, effectively, like adding a bookmark on a web page, adds Gary to my list, to my favorites list. Let me come out of that for now. So on the left-hand side here, you will see various other function buttons. The second one down is my call list. So I can see all the calls from a call list. I can see that I've just called Rob Evans, for example, and I can see that it was an outgoing call because the arrow is pointing up. This call here to Tom was a failed call. He didn't pick up, so it's got an X next to it. But Tom also called me earlier, so there's a down arrow showing that he called me. Obviously, I've called him at this point. He didn't pick up, and then he called me back a bit later. So this is quite handy, and you can delete these as you go. But this keeps the last 7 days within there. The next button down shows your voicemails, and it's a visual voicemail, a bit like on a mobile phone. And if you do have voicemail enabled, this is really handy because you can drop down here and actually play the voicemail from within here. Now, voicemails can also be sent to you as an attachment to an email, but from here, this will give you an indication of all your voicemails. You can play them, call that person back, or delete them here. Really handy. Next two buttons down are management information buttons, and not every user will have them, so I'll talk about those in a separate video. But these are things like queue statistics and agent IDs, and this is where you'd log somebody in and out of a group. So I'm going to skim over those for now and talk about them separately. But the bottom button here is called our group log. This will be on everybody's phone. It's a great feature. It allows you to see all the calls in and out of your particular group and what's happened to them during the set period. So for example, as you can see here, this is a general call list and it's updating constantly. It shows me that to my department, there's been 339 calls. This is a 7-day for us, but it might be a day for you depending on what we set it as. And you can see here there's been 339 calls in or out of our department. And I can see that the green calls here are answered, 34 have been forwarded, and then 44 have been missed. So I can click on any of these. So I can click on answered, for example, and on the right-hand side here, it gives me a call log to show me those calls. And the latest, obviously, is first in the list. So as you can see, it gives me the number that called in. It gives me the option they pressed. So in our instance, on our front-end platform, we have various options, and they pressed option 4, general. The recipient of that call was Tom Wellings, and I can call the original caller back by pressing this button here. I can even add notes to this call and see the time that it was spent. If I drop this call down, it gives me even more information. So I can see the number that the person called within our system, how long that person queued for within our system before they got through, and the duration of the call. So 1 minute 35 in total. So I can come back up to this and I can also see missed. But on missed, you see that this is part of our test system. So you can see this is the caller. They called into Gary's test ACD group. It's just a test call, and there wasn't a recipient because obviously nobody picked it up. Call logs are brilliant for just understanding a little bit about how many calls you've personally taken and made and what's going on within your particular department during that day. If I move down, I'm just going to go back to my favorites bar at the top to make the view nicer. But if I go down to the bottom here, I can look at a few other options. I can see that I'm making a call from my soft phone now. So if I dial out from my app here, it dials out through the headset, my headset, which is connected to the PC. If the next one down across, and I can change that. If I actually have a mobile phone app as well, some users will have the mobile phone app within the organization. And if I've got the mobile phone app, I can actually also change the ability to have full call control from my mobile as well. I'll show you a little bit about that shortly. But for now, we're going to stick on the soft phone. The next button along is my mute key. This means if I'm on a call, I can still hear the customer, they can't hear me, and mute them temporarily. Fantastic for saying, yeah, I'll have milk, 1 sugar with my tea. Next button along is your activate speaker mode. So this turns the actual microphone on your headset. But also, if you turned it off, you can actually speak through the computer's own microphone and speaker and get calls that way. So if you're sitting at your laptop at home, you might not have your headset on, and you can turn that on and off and actually just speak into, say, a laptop, or turn it back on to speak into your headset again. And obviously here is your volume for the whole app. Now, as we move on to this right-hand side, I'm going to slightly expand this section. This top section is your call control section. And as a manager here, I can actually see calls coming into people within my group. So this is Tom calling Carl. This is an internal call, and I can actually pick that call up as well. So I can pick that call up even though it's not a call for me. If I can see that Carl isn't picking up his call, it's been a while, I can say, right, call pickup. Obviously, Carl has either picked up the call now or Tom's given up because that's disappeared from my view. That's only available to people within your group. And as I move down to this next section, this is where we log in and out of different groups, different departments. So if you're somebody who works across multiple departments, or sometimes 4 days a week works in a specific department, but for the 5th helps out somewhere else, this is for you really. It allows you to log in and out of different ring groups. So for example, here at Check, we have option 1 sales. So as part of the sales team, I'd normally be logged into that. That means that all calls, when somebody calls Check comms and they press option 1 for sales, it will then come through to me as part of that sales group. But I can also add myself to things like the support group. Well, I can't because I'm not part of that group. But I could, if they allowed me to be part of that group. They probably don't want me getting things wrong in support, to be honest. They could add me to the support group. But I am part of billing and accounts as well. So now I can take calls for both option 1 and option 3, billing accounts and sales. But this could be different departments within the organisation. But if I pull myself out of the billing and accounts group here, I'm going to take myself out of both in case they start ringing now. But you can see how easy it is. It's just a simple click, logs me in and out of groups to start taking calls. So they are that's a general idea of all the buttons and what they do. Next, I'm going to move on to call control. And this is where it gets fun. Okay, so I'm going to put a call into myself, the magical world of demoing. So as you can see, this is just imagining an internal call is coming in from one of my colleagues. Now I've got a few options here. I can pick up the call. I can silence the ringer, which is handy if you're on, say, a Teams call, or I can reject it. Now, I didn't have time to reject it then because I've got voicemail enabled. If you do leave it a little bit too long, it will go straight through to your voicemail box. I'm going to start that again. And as you can see, it's coming again. I'm going to mute the call so that now it's not ringing on either in my ear or on my desktop. And then I'm going to pick the call up. As you can see, I pick up with the green button here, and I put the call down with the red button here. I can hold the button by pressing the pause symbol. That's actually, imagine like an old record player. I can pause the call, and it tells me that the person is holding here, and I can re-enable the call by pressing the play button again, like a record player. As we go on to the left-hand side, if I make a call out to somebody, and it says, please press 1 for sales, 2 for accounts, 3 for support. I obviously need to be able to press a button, choose an option there. So the way I would do this is by pressing the dial pad here, and it will come up with this dial pad, which I am then able to press 1 for support or sales or whatever I need to do. And I can just close it afterwards. So now I've chosen my option. I can then take a call, make a call, but then I might need to transfer sometimes. So I'm going to give you an overview of doing all this, and there are some more advanced features. But as an overview, to transfer a call, you would press the transfer button here, which looks like a bit of an arrow going somewhere, which is quite handy, as it's pretty self-explanatory really. But if I press transfer here, I then can either dial a number, so it could be a mobile number up at the top here, to send it on to somewhere else, or I can come down to my list here and say, right, I want to transfer to Rob Evans. Now, To transfer to Rob Evans here, I would come along, I would press the either transfer it straight through to him, so I have no contact in this, or I would press the button to announce it to him by pressing this button. You can see Rob is on the phone here, so I'm actually going to transfer through to Jeff. So I press the transfer button here. It now calls Jeff, and hopefully he will pick up, which he has. And as you can see now, it's ongoing and it gives me a timer. Now, the little arrow here allows me to then transfer the call through to Jeff, which I can do like this. And they both should disappear in a second because the calls have now gone together and transferred through. Now I can do exactly the same again, but this time I want to sort of announce it to him and find out, and he will then ask me what the customer wants. So customer phones through, I am going to transfer the call to Jeff, or they've asked for Jeff. I've said, right, give me a second, I'll see if he's available. I press the transfer key. I go over to Jeff here. I click on Jeff's icon. It now says he's unavailable because I'm calling him. He's going to pick up the call in a second, which he does. Now, Jeff turns around and says to me, find out what the original caller wants. So I have to put Jeff on hold here, go back to the original caller, and now I need to take him off hold. So I hit play to take him off hold. I'm now speaking to the original caller. I find out what they want. Now, I find out that Jeff is probably going to want to take this call. So I hit the transfer key again. I go back to Jeff here. I play this button and I say to Jeff, you probably want to take this. At this point, Jeff agrees to take the call. I then press the transfer key. If Jeff doesn't agree to take the call, I hang up on him, click back to the original caller, and then say, I'm sorry, actually, Jeff's busy. He's unable to take the call. So that's the general gist of transferring a call. Press this button here, find the person you want to speak to, and either transfer it through or speak to them first, and then follow the arrow again on the person you're transferring to. If you want to add a group of calls together, one thing you can do is make a conference call. This is a great feature if you've got multiple people working in different sites. But you can do this by hitting the plus arrow, and what it does, the plus arrow adds more calls together, and it creates a call group, which you are then fully in control of. So if I come along now and press the plus arrow here, it creates a group for me, and it's created a group of the two people that are currently on a call, so myself and option 2. But then I want to go and add Jeff in. So that is currently an active group. But I'm going to say, right, I'm going to add Jeff in. So I just find Jeff, or this could be a mobile phone number if you type it up here, whatever you want to do, and it brings up the new call that I'm making to Jeff. And as you can see with Jeff here, I have the option of adding him to the group of calls. So I can press this button here, and as you'll see, he will then jump up here and join our conference group. I could do this multiple times with multiple different people, but it's really, really handy. And then it even gives me the call control to be able to go and get rid of certain people within the group. So one thing important which I didn't do then is I have to enable that group then. Everybody is on hold until I've hit the play button. The hold button obviously puts the whole group on a hold, plays them some music. The play button brings them back to life so they can all talk again to each other. But I can get rid of individual people from this group. I can either close the entire group, a bit like you would in a Teams video chat. The creator of the group can then end it. Or I can just say, thanks, Jeff, appreciate you helping me out there, and just hang up on Jeff specifically. But the rest of the group will still be live. And the important things to remember here, just to start off with as you're just learning the app for the first time. The transfer button is this arrow here. The dial pad, obviously, the mute key, the conference button here, or the hold key here. And obviously you can put the call down with this button here. So as a starting point, that is the Check Cloud app. There's several advanced features, but to get you started, this should have given you a really good training base.